Have you ever made a promise you later regretted? Today's story from Judges 11 is one of the most heartbreaking examples in the Bible, a vow that changed a man's life forever. Let us dive into the words that can wound and the sacrifices that can touch the heart of God. In the Old Testament times, there were leaders called judges who delivered Israel from their enemies. And one of these judges was a man named Jephthah. Now, Jephthah wasn't like the other judges. His story is unique and tragic, but also full of valuable lessons. Jephthah was the son of a prostitute and was treated badly by his own father, so he had to run away from home. But despite his difficult start in life, God gave him a special ability to be a mighty warrior. When Israel needed help from their enemies, they would call for Jephthah, and God always used him to save them. One day, the Ammonite king became very angry with Israel and got ready to attack them. So the people of Israel went to Jephthah and asked him to lead them into battle against the Ammonites. At that time, Jephthah was relaxing at his home in a town called Abel-Meholah. But when he heard the request, he didn't immediately agree to help. He decided to pray and ask God for guidance. Jephthah wanted to know if God was really on their side and wanted them to win the battle. So he made a promise to God. If God helped them defeat the Ammonites, then he promised to sacrifice the first person who came out of his house to meet him when he came back from the battle. That person could be anyone, a family member or even a stranger. It didn't matter. Jephthah was willing to sacrifice whoever it was. This promise shows how serious Jephthah was about fighting in the war. He knew that the Ammonites were strong and had a big army, but he trusted in God and was willing to do anything to win the battle. Then the angel of God came to Jephthah and told him, "You shall surely defeat the Ammonites, as you have said." So Jephthah got ready to fight the Ammonites and took 3,000 men with him. He attacked the Ammonites and fought bravely until he defeated them. The battle was long and hard, but finally Jephthah and his army won. They chased the Ammonite soldiers and killed many of them. The Israelites were very happy because they won the battle, and they praised Jephthah for being such a good leader. When Jephthah and his army came back home, the people of the town welcomed them as heroes. They celebrated their victory and were thankful that Jephthah had saved them. But Jephthah was worried about what he had promised God. He didn't know what to expect when he went back home. Who would come out of the door to welcome him? Would it be a family member or a friend? Jephthah tried to prepare himself for any outcome, but he couldn't have imagined what actually happened. As he approached his house, he saw his daughter dancing to the beat of a tambourine. She was surrounded by young women who were singing and playing music to celebrate his victory. When Jephthah saw his daughter, he was overjoyed. He ran to meet her and hugged her tightly. But at the same time, he was very sad because he remembered his promise to God. Jephthah felt like his heart was breaking. He couldn't believe that he had to fulfill his promise by sacrificing his only child. His daughter hadn't done anything wrong. In fact, she was a good and obedient girl. But Jephthah knew that he had made a vow to God and he had to keep his word. With tears in his eyes, Jephthah told his daughter, "My child, you have ruined me. You are the one who has made me keep my vow. Why did you come out to meet me?" His daughter was very upset when she heard these words. She couldn't understand why her father was crying or why he was talking to her like this. But when she saw the sadness in his eyes, she knew something was wrong. Finally, Jephthah's daughter realized what was happening. She understood that her father had made a promise to God, and she knew that he had to keep his word. She was very sad because she loved her father and she didn't want him to be upset. But she was also sad for herself because she would never get married now. Even though she was only 12 years old, she had dreamed of getting married one day and starting a family of her own. But now she knew that this dream would never come true. Jephthah's daughter was a very brave girl. Even though she was sad and scared, she didn't complain or get angry. Instead, she accepted her fate with courage and asked her father for only two things. First, she wanted to stay with her mother for 1 month so she could say goodbye and tell her how much she loved her. Second, she wanted to spend 2 more months in the hills with her friends so she could cry and be with nature before she died. Jephthah agreed to these requests and promised to fulfill them. After the 3 months, Jephthah's daughter knew that her time had come. She said goodbye to her family and friends and waited for her father to bring her back home. When the time came for Jephthah to sacrifice his daughter, he built an altar in honor of God. He placed wood and offerings on the altar and prepared everything for the sacrifice. Then he told his daughter to lie down on the altar. She closed her eyes and waited for her father to do what he had to do. But instead of killing her right away, Jephthah couldn't bear to hurt his daughter. He kept pushing the sacrifice back. He couldn't understand why God had asked him to do this. Jephthah prayed and asked God for mercy. He told God that he loved his daughter very much and didn't want to sacrifice her. But God didn't answer him. Jephthah's daughter could feel her father's sadness, but she didn't say a word. She understood that her father had made a promise to God and that he had to keep his word. Finally, Jephthah gathered all his strength and carried out the sacrifice. He killed his daughter and offered her as a burnt offering to God. Then he took the pieces of the sacrifice and placed them on the altar. Smoke rose from the burning sacrifice and went up to heaven. Jephthah knew that God had accepted his sacrifice because he felt peace in his heart. After the sacrifice, Jephthah called together all the elders and leaders of Israel. He told them about his promise to God and how he had fulfilled it. The people were shocked when they heard this story. They couldn't believe that someone would sacrifice their own child. But they also knew that Jephthah had made a vow to God and had to keep his word. They respected him for his courage and his faith in God. From that day on, every year the daughters of Israel went out to the hills for 4 days to remember Jephthah's daughter. They sang and cried and made offerings to God. They honored her memory and remembered her bravery. So, my friends, the story of Jephthah teaches us some important lessons. First, we should be careful with our words. Sometimes we make promises without thinking about the consequences. We might say things when we are angry or desperate, but later we regret it. Just like Jephthah, we must think before we speak and make sure our words don't hurt ourselves or others. Second, obedience is costly. Jephthah kept his promise to God even though it meant sacrificing his only child. He didn't complain or make excuses. He simply obeyed God's will. Sometimes being obedient isn't easy, but God calls us to follow him no matter what. Third, God values thoughtful worship. He doesn't need sacrifices that are done quickly or carelessly. He wants us to worship him with love and respect. Just as Jephthah struggled with his sacrifice, we too should think carefully about how we worship God. Our actions should come from the heart and not just out of fear or obligation. Remember, dear friends, let your worship be filled with fear and reverence, knowing that God is the judge of your heart. And remember the story of Jephthah's daughter, who showed great courage and faith in God. May her story inspire you to live a life that honors God and brings him glory. Now I want to ask you, what do you think about Jephthah's vow? Do you think it was faith or foolishness? Comment below and let's talk about it. And before you go, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories that carry deep lessons for life. Until next time, may the peace of God be with you.